Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Ledlow. This is Evolution JKD. As always, I'm joined by Ian.
Hey, everybody.
Um, we were just joking about me not going into super punchy voice and how he probably should have hit record 10 seconds ago, me talking about like, quick, hit record before I go into punchy, crazy voice and get all geeked out, excited, and just start screaming into the microphone.
Martial theater mode. Hey, everybody, my name is Joel.
My death metal mode.
It's pretty good.
So if you haven't like this, listen to the whole thing first, and then hopefully you do like it and give us a thumbs up on that. It does make a difference. If you have not subscribed to the channel, do go ahead and subscribe. You'll get to see more stuff. We're trying to put out more and more content. There's some cool stuff coming in the future. So this channel is going to pick up more and more and more.
We also have a course available featuring Sifu Joel and I of a great way to get into the basics, the mechanics, the foundations of Jeet Kune Do if you're interested in some really high quality information that will give you a lot of insight and a great reference for the things that we talk about in this podcast.
Two things on that. One, it's not just for people who are quote unquote Jeet Kune Do, but if you're a martial artist and you're wanting to explore that movement, it's going to help you. It's going to give you some insight. That's going to go into with what we're talking about today a little bit. Martial artists and geeking out together. We've got more content coming, so that's going to be coming up soon. We'll put links in the description. So depending on when you listen to this, there could be 1, 2, 3, 7 videos on Teachable, or whatever the platform is at the time.
Well, in light
But
of
right now
that,
it's Teachable.
yeah, I was going to say, in light of that, let's talk about something a little bit different. Please enlighten us on what green belt syndrome is.
So we wanted to talk about this. I was told this green belt syndrome is kind of, you start off, you're a white belt, and then everybody's got different belts, but green belt's kind of that level where you kind of know something, just enough to basically be a complete idiot. You think you know something, and I went through the same thing. And that's why I know about it, because I was like, oh, it's green belt syndrome. You know enough to kind of have an understanding, but not enough to actually know anything. And it's maybe you understand jab, cross, kicks, blah, 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 whatever. I understand basics 1, 2, 3, but you don't really understand 8, 9, 10 because you're not seeing them. And it goes into it. I'd like to go back just a little bit. So green belt is basically someone who has a very beginner level of skill, and they can see the difference between themselves and a white belt, and they're very noticeable. It's very noticeable of like, hey, I'm way better than a white belt. I'm way better than a yellow belt. I've been around for a little bit. I kind of got this down. There's a natural cockiness that comes to it, and you start thinking you know some shit, but you're not close to black belt. Black belt, you start getting really humbled because you start realizing, oh crap, I don't know anything, which is kind of the difference. Green belt, you think you know everything. Black belt, you realize you know almost next to nothing.
That's how it should be anyways. Yeah, it reminds me of like when you're in class and you're maybe you are, but maybe not as skilled at the drills and stuff as your peers that are the same level, but it would be akin to somebody that starts trying to lead a drill to a beginner and they're beating them and recognizing that, and they start to getting into that directing mode.
Yeah, and you get pulled over. What happens a lot of times is a green belt is sort of in a level 1 class, you're top of the class. And you're getting pulled over to be demonstrated with the instructors a lot. Like, oh, hey, Ian, come here. Let me show everybody with you. And then, hey, Ian, I want you to work with this new person. So you start getting into, you know what? My kids do the exact same thing. I talk to my son about this all the time. He starts going into telling his sister to do stuff. And I was like, yo, dude, time out.
Yeah.
Like, let me be the dad. Let me be the parent here. You be the big brother. That's not your role to tell your sister this. And it's tough because you hear that a lot. You hear the teacher or you hear your parent say this over and over and over to another student. You think you're in the same position to say those same things. And I guess I sort of just those things kind of clicked with me because that's where I'm at in my life right now is having kids versus back when I was a green belt, I did not have kids. And it is that same thing. Your teacher is sort of like the parent, but a senior student or a more senior student is an older sibling. A green belt to a yellow belt is an older brother or sister. So they sometimes get a little confused on that. Hey, gang, we are actually taking this somewhere, so bear with us. It's not just rambling about. We're giving a little bit. If you know what we're talking about, you're like, hey, green belt, I know it. If you don't, we're giving you a little bit of insight, and then we're going to take it into something. So a lot of people, green belts, they're kind of the big brothers and sisters, but they kind of act like they're the moms and dads, but they're not. And it's a little bit of assumed. It's a very natural process, but it's you have to kind of bust through it, then you move past it and you're okay. So I think in overall, like you and I have been talking about just outside of the podcast, like we talk all the time anyway, and just checking it, we're both really busy, as I'm sure a lot of people get really busy. We have a ton of stuff going on. What I find is, as a martial artist, I find when I do martial arts and I practice with other people or I hang out with other martial artists, I get more calm and leveled and relaxed, whether I'm just, it's just more companions to be comfortable around. And I find that I reach out to people who are in the martial arts world quite a lot because I trust them and because we're there and because we can identify with each other. And in I think martial artists are people who want to have when they get together, they're trying to have you they want to have you be more positive. They want to have a positive impact on you. And I find this to be true for all the martial artists that I've been around or come in contact with. They want things to be in a positive way. They don't want to detract from that. They want that message to be always good. And this is martial artists from all walks. Like, gang, I've been around a lot of people from a lot of different walks of martial arts, but also walks of life. They come from different parts of the world, different socioeconomics, different upbringings, all of that. Martial artists come together because we have this thing of movement, but also positivity. And that's kind of where we're going into it. I think a green belt is someone who is trying to do that. Look, not all green belts are going to fall into this, but the idea of it, it's just a catchphrase, okay? It's someone who's sort of gotten a little bit of skill and is trying to be helpful, but basically not doing the greatest job. And that gets us into another thing. So martial artists talking to other martial artists. Ian and I are not green belt syndrome. We're not in that world. We're way past that and have been for a while. When we talk, we are in that other realm. We're not in the big brother situation. We're in the dad situation, or in my case, I'm sometimes in the granddad situation. I don't have grandchildren, but my brother does, or one of them does anyway. As we're going through this, I've come across a lot of martial artists. I just come up and meet somebody, and they have a martial arts background, and you know what? Man, we just get along. I talked to two people today, both with martial arts backgrounds. Both are only mild acquaintances. One I just met today. The other one is somebody I have just a mild acquaintance with, but we have martial backgrounds. And we got along great because it was an easy, casual, and yes, we identified as martial artists. And yes, we connected as martial artists. We didn't connect as parents or as something else. We did connect as martial artists. But I I don't get there's a lot of animosity, a lot of toxicity in the JKD world, especially that, you suck at, hey gang, yeah, I've done it too, but mostly I'm like smacking down greenbelt people, young kids who think they know something and They really don't. They're in the big brother syndrome where they think they know something and they don't really know something. And
I read the
I
book.
know what, no,
I read the
I was going to say,
book.
well, maybe I'm in that position too. And then I said, I caught myself and thought, no, I'm not. I don't really have anybody in the JKD world that I would, uh, there's nobody in the JKD world that I would defer to. There are a great many, I won't say a great many, there are a selection of people that I absolutely respect. And I always have try to have an openness to anybody. And there's a lot of people I would listen to, but there's nobody I would defer to. And here's the thing though, I don't think any of the people I respect would expect me to defer and say, "Oh, I think this is better," because a lot of the conversations are, "Oh, I like this kick," and they go, "Oh, I like this kick." Okay, well, we don't go, I like a hook kick and you like a shin attack. You suck, man. Shin attack sucks. It's the worst, dude. You suck for liking it. You got to do a hook kick. No, we just go, okay, that's cool, man. You want to move around together? You want to,
Well, shit.
like it's different.
Something I would say is, tell me why. Why do you like the shin attack? Why do you like the hook kick? So
I
I was so Corey and I actually just went to this producer's house last night, music production and stuff. If y'all don't know, that's kind of my day job. But last night, after we all had dinner and stuff, we went over to his house and he played his music for us and stuff. And rather than me being like, well, my music is this and my music is that, this person who clearly had this huge amount of knowledge, who was willing to share, basically left the floor open to ask anything that I wanted to regarding production or philosophy about, artistic expression or anything of the sort. But for some reason, when it comes to YouTube, or it comes to, especially Jeet Kune Do in general, everybody is so quick to be like, yo, I know this, I know this, I know this, as opposed to being like, well, how does this
yeah.
work? What about this? Oh, what am I missing? What insight do I not have? And I think that's the disappointment that I'm sharing with Sifu Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, about the lack of, how do you even say that, of curiosity even. It's just like looking for confirmation.
And there's a lot of selfishness. Like, I'm not saying don't be into yourself and don't take care of yourself and self growth and all that. But there's also like in saying the curiosity for someone else. Well, what do you have to offer? If you're only looking at what you have, then that's that proverbial cup is full kind of deal.
Right.
You can't be open to learn anything else. If you pour your cup out and then say, "Hey, let me see what you have," and then okay, great, what do I have? And then you try it and you go, "Just," but here we go with curiosity, and I think Ian's hit on something. Having a curiosity about somebody else. If someone has something to offer, you don't have to agree with them, but it's that proverbial empty cup kind of idea that if I empty my cup, I can at least try what you're having. I mean, I don't have to like it, but I can try it. If you have grape Kool-Aid, I can try there's no, don't go with like some crazy cult thing, but which is a whole other thing with the JKD world. I mean, they got the grape Kool-Aid and they all drink that. But they're not willing to pour it out and try a different flavor. That's kind of the thing. You don't have to like it, but you should try it, or at least be open to the idea of trying it or exploring it or considering it. Maybe you don't have to try it, but why, if I like grape and you like cherry, do I have to go like cherry sucks? You're like, oh, you like cherry, I prefer grape. Well,
So
you can have cherry and I can have grape. Whatever. You like Coke, I like Pepsi. It doesn't make any difference.
So I actually have a relatively difficult question about this, and this is something that maybe you and I haven't even talked about before. Um, where do we find this middle ground? I think is a good thing to maybe look at, because there's a clear difference behind somebody throwing a punch and snapping their elbow and saying that that's what you should do, which is the number
Mm-hmm.
one way for you to have horrible tinnitus in your elbow. There's also a lot of unsafe practices that I think both you and I have seen people do on the internet. For example, the
Mm-hmm.
reaction that we've done to the dude swinging a live axe at somebody with a shield, which you
Oh,
should
it's
go
terrible.
check that out if you haven't already. It's on our channel. But you know, how do we discern, something that is outright even dangerous or outright even like blatant that somebody else may not understand? How do we do a better job of providing that kind of conversation versus what we're talking about, which is approaching it with, inquiring rather than condemning?
I think I think that's a really great point, and actually a call to action to all of you who are listening. This is to you, and a thank you. And really, look, I've had a lot of comments, and I hope you do comment. And I've had a lot of keyboard warriors who just get deleted and blocked and whatever. But I've also had a lot of people from martial arts and non-martial arts ask some really great questions and really give some stuff to me and to Ian for us to consider and help us tackle this very question. Because look, we started off with the avoid these influencers. I think that was our first big
Mm-hmm.
video to do. And go ahead and watch it, because I still stand by, I think you should avoid them. But I think what Ian and I are trying to do is find a better and more positive messaging, instead of saying, look, avoid these people, because it turns into a confrontation. And we don't want to do that. As we were saying, we're trying to take the people who are maybe that toxic negativity and give warning to people, but also really addressing in a more positive way to guide the people who are maybe in that green belt area where you've
Mm.
kind of got some skill but you're not quite there, but help guide you to that higher level. um, and it's tough because it's online, and somebody who doesn't say their name, there's no picture, there's no videos, and suddenly they're talking to you like they're your parent or your sifu or your sensei. And it's like, look, uh, it's tough to take your message when it's worded that way and you're kind of doing whatever.
To
So
put
it's coming there.
to put things into perspective, I've I've also been on the other side of this. So, some of you all know that I did Marvel Universe Live. I was the understudy for Iron Fist. Shout out to Omar Zaki. He is a stuntman now, and also I think a motion capture guy, which is super cool because he taught me so much stuff, and I'd love to see him go off and whatnot. But the story has nothing to do with him. But anyways, I was in a training room one time and I was working with somebody with pads, and some other dude that had this other martial background interrupted me while I was teaching and told me that the way that I was holding was wrong. And that was because the way that that person had cultivated was through, matching energy with hitting on the pad. And we actually have a very different means of how we cultivate before we get into doing that. Mind you, we were working with the
Yeah.
beginner. So my first indication was confrontation. I didn't react in that way. Thankfully, that wasn't the thing that, that wasn't something that got me in trouble with my actual, because it is a corporate job, believe it or not. But figuring out how to deal with that and figuring out how to try to manage a middle ground of something in between was a very real thing. And it wasn't somebody commenting on the internet. It was somebody that was literally telling me, don't do this. And it kind of comes into this situation of, no, I'm not going to sit here and just, badmouth this person or try to fight them at work or something like that, because that's not really even worth it. At the same time, I wish that I would have had better communication skills as opposed to, me asserting my authority of my expertise or something and that person trying to do the same thing, because I wish that that person had something to take away from the conversation. And I know that that other person had stuff that I could have taken away that could have had some insight, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the good news is we're not alone in this search. I think a lot of martial arts people out there who are in your generation, my generation, in generations older than us, have been trying to do this. And I think Bruce even was trying to do this and ran into controversy and ran into people who are going to jump in, and it's sometimes I think difficult because you can have not referencing the person you had a thing with about the focus mitts, but we might say something here, and it's going to get talking to kind of Bruce and what he was speaking about and to whom he was speaking to. A lot of times we're talking to something and a person without any insight to any knowledge to really back that up will come in just guns blazing on us. And it's like, look, dude, firstly, it's my channel. Secondly, I am an expert. Thirdly,
Right.
I don't need to prove shit to anybody. Fourth, who are you? Like, and not even like being you've said, hey, my name is Joel and I'm a martial arts instructor and blah blah blah. It's like, no, like literally, I don't know who you are. You're an unknown. You could be a 10-year-old kid, and
Right.
sometimes they type like 10-year-old kids. Actually, my 11-year-old types better than most of these people.
Well, it's also
But
like, what is the outcome? And this is from my own reflection that I'm relaying to anybody that's listening out there. But what is the outcome that you want from this interaction? You know, I'm sure some people out there just
yeah,
want to be assholes, but I also feel like there's a genuine passion behind a lot of these comments or something that people want to express. That I'm like, how can we have a better conversation? You know, because to
you
be
know,
honest with you, like, sorry, I didn't mean but we
I could
don't
punch you.
have anything to prove. That's the thing,
Yeah,
is we don't have anything
I
to prove.
I think here's a big deal, and I'll talk about this for a lot of people who are in that. And again, it's just don't if you're a green belt, like, hey, gang, like keep going to class, keep training, uh, talk to your instructor. Don't worry about it too much. You get on the other side of it; it's not a big deal. But this, and again, this is something that was told to me: the green belt syndrome of I'm kind of senior level one. I kind of know some stuff, and you get that big brother, big sister mentality of wanting to kind of be the parent. Now, in a class, if you do that and then suddenly you're not in a level one class, but you're in a level two or level three class, you're with a bunch of black belts, suddenly the green belt shuts up. Why? Because they're standing in a room full of black belts. You know, a 10-year-old might try to be a parent to a 5-year-old, right? But when the 10-year-old is standing in a room full of adults, that doesn't fly very well, right? To go with that analogy, except when you're online, because then the 10-year-old can just be an unknown person. And you're like, am I talking to a 10-year-old or am I talking to a 35-year-old parent of a 10-year-old?
So I just thought of a
And they will never tell you.
I just thought of a really good analogy that puts this into perspective of how people talk. So it might not be as relevant to you, but to people that are my age and even younger, like this would be the equivalent of somebody that plays Street Fighter and they play ranked online and they're a bronze. But then they turn around and they start making YouTube videos about how to win every time online on Street Fighter. It's kind of hard to take that person serious.
I'm going to just say by the ranked bronze that they're not the ranked gold.
No, and there's way beyond gold is the thing.
Yeah,
So you know what I'm saying?
that kind of runs into it. And here's the thing, look, I've got friends who are pilots. I don't know why. I have a ton of friends who are pilots. And look, I took ground school because I thought it'd be fun. Like a long time ago, I've been planes from smaller to bigger,
I didn't know that.
commercial. I never took flight school though, because I suddenly realized that it would cost a crap load of money
Yeah.
that I did not have at the time. But anyway, I took ground school and it was really cool. I don't remember everything, but I understand some basic stuff that allows me to sometimes have get the idea of what my pilot friends are talking about, but it's not the same thing. Like when they talk to each other, it's not the same as when they talk to me because I'm not in their world. I'm somebody they have to explain things to. And sometimes I've got two buddies, they're both pilots, and the three of us will hang out and they'll have a conversation. We're having a conversation about stuff, and then I'll have to go, hey, huh? and they have to explain something to me because I'm not a pilot. I don't have their experience.
I feel like I feel like such a better positive direction would be using what you have in order to ask deeper questions that a very beginner person would not even think about. And I think that's part of the reason why Sifu Joel and I have really good talks, is because we keep trying to go further and further and further with the things that we discuss. And
Hmm.
knowing, I don't mean to be like, put you in your place or anything, but knowing where you stand within somebody that has this field of knowledge or stepping into a field, it's only going to benefit you.
Perspective.
Right. It's only going to benefit you to be inquisitive and leave the rest of that stuff up to, you
Hmm.
know, like let it sort itself out.
I would go with that. Something I get all the time is someone will, oh, I don't train in Jeet Kune Do, but didn't Bruce Lee say this? Did you read this article? And I'm like, dude, please, please, please stop quoting Bruce Lee to me. Please stop speaking about that. Now, if you're going to lead that in, hey, I read this article. What is your thoughts on it? But it doesn't usually come across that way. It's, hey, I read this article. This is how you should be thinking. And my response is, go
No.
fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Because why should I listen to you who has just said, I don't know anything except I read an article with no perspective? And here's something that's important. Bruce Lee, for the most part, was not talking to you. He was talking to his peer group. When he's talking about martial arts, he's talking about people at his level. And gang, I'm going to kind of deflate you for a second. You're not his peer group. And if your skill now with Bruce back then, you would not be in his peer group. Sorry. So you have to understand that's different. When Ian and I talk, oftentimes you're not in our peer group. Some people are because they have, a couple of decades of martial arts training or movement background, and they have the training, maybe in something different. But you know what? We don't have this issue with those people
Right.
because they have that. They have that insight. They have something in there. Um, but I do think sometimes, and what we're trying to do in maybe a better way, because, crap, at this point, Ian, you're the same age as Bruce when he died. Wait, you're older now, aren't you? Wait,
I will be later in
will
October.
be this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be older than Bruce, which is insane. So, Ian, right now, here's a big fun fact for everybody. Ian, right now, is the same age as Bruce when he died and has as much movement background as Bruce did. We're not talking about talent stuff like that, but Ian's got a lot of background and stuff and a lot of training and been around with he's done a lot of tricking and martial arts. Um, it's a different world than what most people are doing. And again, this is my day job, but Ian does this stuff all the time, like a lot. And I do this is everybody goes, hey, what's your full-time job? I'm like, this is what I do.
Teach
I'm
classes.
really bad at a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at a lot of other stuff, but I'm really good at this stuff. So we do try to speak to this. We do try to talk to you about it, and we're trying to do better. Um, but sometimes I think maybe the big takeaway for this to wrap everything up is not just us, but forget about us. How do we approach someone else who maybe has some knowledge? How do we have that openness to be receptive to what they have and be respectful to what their choice is? They're choosing a different flavor than you are. That's okay. Do they have a reason why they like to do that? Why do you like this one better? Well, and everybody's got a reason for it. It may be because of something physical. It may be because they learned it from a teacher and they thought it was really cool. And that teacher was just really big standout. Maybe they used it once and it really just like, hey, this is my go-to. And just like taste buds, they can change over time. I don't move the same way I did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's going to
Yeah.
keep
Even
going,
five.
or 30 years ago,
Even 5 years
you know,
ago. And
or even 5 years ago.
and on that note, something that I will kind of chime into this is learn to disagree but I think that it's a healthy question when something comes into
without being disrespectful.
without being
You can disagree
disrespectful. Yeah.
without being disrespectful.
But also consider, and I'm not saying that this is with everybody, but consider what you can get from this person or what you can learn from this person, even if the topic that they are not giving you or the topic that they are giving you is not relevant. This happens to me all the time, especially if I'm watching a video from someone else with tricking, with martial arts, with music production, because I still watch a lot of music production tutorials, and maybe their sound is absolute garbage with what they're trying to teach, but they give me an idea. They give me something to go practice.
Yeah.
And if you all are about your craft where you say, oh, go practice, and you're going to go do that, take that as a means of inspiration, whether it is good or bad, because it's just information.
I would always say this when someone would ask my opinion on something. I say, look, I'm going to give you my opinion and take it for whatever it's worth. I may say, hey, I think you should go. You're trying to pick out a shirt, and I say, oh, I think the blue one looks good, and you go, I considered the blue one. I think I'm going to go with the red one.
Yeah.
You know what? I helped you because I gave you a choice and you went with it and you said, hey, like, I don't want to go with that. That's what Ian's talking about right there. You see somebody, maybe they're going to help you realize that that's not for you. And that's okay. I wanted to come back into this. I know we're a little bit long, but I want to go really quickly on this. You have to, when you're speaking to someone who has some expertise, if I'm talking to someone about tricking, I wouldn't go into a room full of trickers who can flip through the air and be like, hey, man, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh, wow. Hey, I have a little bit of tumbling. I don't understand how to do this. Being respectful and understanding that they can do something you can't. If I'm going to talk to pilots, hey, look, you did ground school, but have you ever flown a plane? Technically, I have flown a plane, but it was a Piper Cub, and all you have to do is really hold on to a stick, and that's about it. But I was literally, but I'm not doing a commercial jet. It's a totally different world, and they sometimes will brush it off as, oh, it's not that big of a deal if you have their expertise. And here's where I want to go into that with martial artists. And it kind of wraps up with anybody that you would talk to. If you don't understand their perspective, then
Criticize them.
it's easy to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
So, like, all right. So I remember Ed told me once, we were having a conversation, Ed Monahan, and he said, I saw some dipshit, and I'm paraphrasing it here, but saw some dipshit, making some dumb comment. And I thought, if they were in the same room with you, there is no way they would say that, because you would pummel the shit out of them for popping off that way. And that's kind of what you need to know about martial artists is we do that stuff. And I think people who understand that about another person, if I go to another martial artist and they like something different, but they still have it. I've said it for years. I know lots of people who can punch really, really great who aren't Jeet Kune Do. And if you respect them and you understand that, you can have a great relationship, and then you can learn something from them.
Which also goes into the primary foundation of like what I think being a quote unquote green belt is all about. In order for you to even be at that level for whatever that is, and you don't even have to be a green belt to understand this, but you, especially in terms of martial arts, should be developing that critical eye for what movement is good and what movement is, technically not good. I'll tell you right now, if you do a cartwheel and your legs are bent and you're barely getting off of your hands, I think we can all agree that's a shitty cartwheel. So why is it so hard for you all to see what's going on within martial arts? Not to be a dick, but it's
also so green belt. I don't think there's a green belt in like BJJ, but like blue belt, like, hey, blue belt, like,
yeah,
I kind of know what I'm doing, but you're not a brown belt, and you're definitely not a black belt, and things change, and sometimes you think it's the same thing, but it's not, and sometimes we got to check ourselves and step back and say, what's that? And I think I've been fortunate to be around people who are experts in other things that are obviously I don't have any kind of skill in, and go, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like, how do you do that? And I have an appreciation for it.
Right.
And sometimes I can get some insight for my own self. So that's pretty cool. Um, I'm kind of done. I don't even know what we talked about today. Hopefully, it was some good stuff. Please put some comments down there. Hey, what did you like about this episode? What would you like to hear more about? If there's something that you had an idea and you're like, oh, I wish they had talked about this more, drop it in the comments because we would love to hear from you and get some of those topic points.
We're pretty open, so just kind of let us know what kind of things you're wanting to explore, and maybe we can kind of walk on that path together through this podcast.
Yeah, try that being respectful thing, and grammar is always appreciated.
Yeah. Again, be sure to like the video, subscribe to us. Anything helps us for the algorithm. If you want more information, then check out evolutionjkt.com or check out Sifu Joe Ludlow on Teachable with that course. We'll have a link in the description. And, let us know how we can help you or help enrich your martial path or really anything that's going on.
Yeah, do check out some of the other videos. This one is just audio, it's a podcast. However, I do have other stuff that's clips from classes or something I'm shooting independently or doing here and there. And there's a few things that are kind of quackadoodle off over there, but give those a watch and then let me know what you like. And hey, this is really fun, or um, try to do the positives. Hey, I really like this video, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff on a video. If you don't like one, maybe you could give an how it could be better.
Yeah, we'd like that. Have a good one, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.